Today we're going to use the TCL 6 series and the Samsung Q90T QLED TVs to answer a question. Do you get more as far as gaming performance goes when you spend more on a QLED TV? Hey guys, it's the Villaman here, home theater enthusiast and lover of all things tech. And just like the picture comparison that I did, today is time for that gaming comparison. Stick around. Now to do this comparison, I'll be using both my PC, which has a Vega 64 graphics card, which is FreeSync capable, and the Xbox One X, which has VRR and FreeSync capabilities. So one of them, the PC, will support FreeSync only on the Samsung TV, while the Xbox will support VRR on both TVs. So the question is, does that make an actual difference? Well, let's get directly into it. Alright, so the first game we'll be testing is Overwatch on the PC, and my PC is running a Vega 64 graphics card and a AMD 3950X processor. It's also my editing PC and it is really good for gaming. The Vega 64 graphics card isn't the fastest around, but it will serve very well for our purposes because what we want to do is run this game in as high a frame rate as we can, and that's 120 Hz. So we'll be going at 1440p with 120 Hz refresh rate. The Samsung supports FreeSync and VRR, while the 6 series only supports VRR, and my graphics card only supports FreeSync. So only the Samsung will have the adaptive syncing capability. So we'll see how that works. I'm not sure if you can see it, but there is some degree of tearing happening on the TCL that's not happening on the Samsung because it doesn't have FreeSync. But in the event you have an HDMI 2.1 graphics card or one that supports VRR, then the TCL will not have a problem because it does support that also with its THX game mode. Right off the bat, you can see the brightness difference between both TVs. They both have a very good picture and the color reproduction is very good, but you can tell that the Q90T is noticeably brighter than the 6 series. The mini LED backlight in the 6 series makes it brighter than previous versions, but it's still not as bright as the flagship Samsung. Missed that timing. I was hoping he'd poke his head back out, but nah. Now I like using this game to test gaming performance because not only is it fast paced, but there's a lot of contrast in it and the colors are very vibrant because of its cartoony nature. I say cartoony, but Overwatch is a big deal for a lot of people out there. Not me though, because no. It is fun though. If the colors on the Q90T seem overblown, it's because in certain instances it gets so bright that it overexposes the camera. So it's not a matter of it being washed out or anything. It's just that the camera just can't capture all the dynamic range of the picture at a given moment. It's lagging like crazy. My ping isn't even that high. Why is it lagging? I don't know what that was, but it wasn't good. I'm liking the amount of shadow detail that you can see on both TVs also. Even though the TCL is dimmer in comparison to the Samsung, it still retains a lot of shadow detail and highlight detail. Now because of all the chaos happening, the frame rate will vary a lot. It goes from 100 plus to 80s to 90s, what have you. So there will be some tearing happening if the TV doesn't have an adaptive sync capability, and that's evident on the TCL right now. That shouldn't be a case if you're gaming on an HDMI 2.1 graphics card or console gaming like on the Xbox One X or the next gen Series X or PS5, because they all will have VRR capabilities at the minimum. For now though, we can see that the input lag on the TCL is very comparable to that on the Samsung. I'll freeze frame it in editing to see if there's any disparity in the action on screen, but so far it looks like they are very, very similar. Get wrecked. I feel like Gandalf right now. You shall not pass. Boulder to the face. That's really my favorite thing to do. The Xbox One X is running the game right now in performance mode, so that means it's rendering at 1080p at 60 frames per second, at least, you know, trying to. But the Xbox supports VRR, so right now both the TCL and the Samsung has VRR capability enabled, so there is a lot of things going on. Although both TVs do maintain a really good amount of details in the shadows, the Samsung really does boost the mid-tone, so the shadows have extra definition, I think. Just looking at the boulders on either side of these stairs goes to show you exactly what I'm talking about. I feel like even though the TCL doesn't get as bright as the Samsung overall, it does maintain very comparable specular highlights, so lights and everything and bright objects are just as bright on the TCL as you would see them on the Samsung. For the most part, it's definitely a higher peak brightness on the Samsung than it is on the TCL though. Having adaptive sync on these TVs is so great because when scenes get absolutely mad like this one, then there's no slowdown or screen tearing because the TV can adjust its refresh rate based on the output of the console. So they remain in sync and everybody's happy, at least I am. Let's wreck some fools though. The first thing that jumps out at you again is the difference in brightness, but also how much of a difference there is in the shadow detail because the shadows on the Samsung are so elevated. So as you may have gathered, this is a tricky question, especially if you've seen the picture comparison. Now both TVs have their distinct advantages and disadvantages, and it's the same in game mode. So the TCL 6 series is THX game mode certified, and what that means is that the TV meets some stringent requirements for both input lag, picture quality like picture rendition in game mode because it has its own picture profile for game mode, a low display rise time, 120 Hz, refresh rate, ALLM and VRR support. So that's auto low latency mode and also variable refresh rates. So basically all of the key gaming features, but there's a caveat where it doesn't support actual 4K at 120 Hz gaming, while the Samsung has support for both FreeSync and VRR as well as ALLM like the TCL does, as well as having very low input lag. And the Samsung, even though it has less local dimming zones than the appropriately sized TCL 6 series, it actually has better backlight management and just a better screen with better viewing angles and better off-axis and ambient light rejection. So you have to decide if giving up certain features are worth it if you're going for, say, the TCL, whether it's worth it to have a wider viewing angle or really good ambient light rejection, because at the end of the day, if you're playing at 4K 60 or 1440p at 120 Hz, then both TVs will perform very similarly. But only the Samsung's one HDMI 2.0 port can support 4K at 120 Hz. But by the way the actual consoles are shaping up, then that might not be an issue because games may be limited to 4K at 60 Hz. But if you're gaming on a PC, then that's a different question, because depending on the graphics card you have, you can game at 4K at over 100 frames per second. So it depends on how you'll be gaming. This just proves how much of a value the TCL TV is, but it is not perfect by any means. You do give up some features in exchange for that lower entry price. Things like controlling connected HDMI devices on the Samsung you can do on the TCL, as well as it having a better, more fluid, smart UI interface. Those are the things that we don't really talk about when we compare, but they are things that may add value depending on your use case. But let me know in the comments what you think about the comparison and each of these TVs, if you're in the market for one or the other, and why that is. And also include links to the merch store where you can get awesome t-shirts like this to help support the channel. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, and thanks for watching. Until next time, this has been your friendly neighborhood Villaman saying be safe and peace.